Okay. Is there anything in the biological report that's significant?
No, basically.
March 6th.
Planning Commission meeting of February 21st, 2024 will come to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The secretary will call roll, please.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Present.
Commissioner Rice,
Here.
Commissioner Tolson,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Mayor. Here. Chairperson Mann.
Present. May I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
We have a motion from Commissioner Rice,
Second.
second from Commissioner Tolson. By consensus? Okay. The agenda is approved. May I have a motion for approval of the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
We have a motion from Commissioner Tolson.
I'll second it.
We have a second from Vice Chair Mayor. Again, by consent. Okay, we have approval of the minutes. The secretary will read the declaration of conflict.
If any member of the Planning Commission may have a conflict of interest or any reason why that member must abstain from consideration of any matter on this agenda, he or she should so declare at this time.
Are there any declarations of conflict? Hearing none. Public statement. This is the time allotted for public statements or comments on all items other than public hearing items. Is there anyone in the chamber wishing to be heard on any item that's not an agendized item? Okay. Is there any correspondence from the Deputy Director, City Planner?
Yes, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, we have three correspondence to alert you to. We have a supplemental to agenda item 11A1. We have a late email regarding Agenda 9B for general plan annual progress report provided to you at the dais. And we have a corrected attachment A to agenda item number 9A, the Mobile Home Rent Mediation Board annual status report with some corrected numbers to table 1. So we'll put those into the record.
Table 1 is the vacancy rates.
Correct.
That's the only change offhand that you know of.
That's correct.
Thank you. May I have a motion for approval of the consent calendar?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
We have a motion from Commissioner Tolson. Sorry.
Did you have something? No, you can go ahead.
I'm sorry, what's the question? Okay. Do I have a second for the motion to approve the consent calendar? So we can't
haven't-
approve it unless we have a question. Okay. Hold on, Commissioner Tolson. Ms. Wright?
They're here to talk about the mobile homes, which are now, we're voting in, and I
Ms. Wright? Are you here to talk about the item on the consent calendar in the mobile home rent mediation board? Okay. Then we are going to go back to item 7, public statements. Mr. Tolson, I'm going to have you rescind your motion.
So rescinded.
Okay. Now we're back to public statements. So this is the time allotted for comments from the public for items on the agenda. In theory, the consent calendar is not an agendized item except what it is for 9A, so this is your time to talk. Did you do a speaker card, by the way? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair Mayor.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. I basically want it to I want to make a note and want it on record, okay? If, one of the things that goes on in these mobile home parks is everything is governed by HCD, Housing and Community Development, okay? Well, the problem is they're too big of a bureaucracy for the state of California, and there's not enough inspectors or anybody else that gives a damn to come out and look at things. When you have situations where you're taking mobile homes and you're ripping them down and rebuilding them, basically, putting new insulation, new studding, new windows, electrically rewiring them, and not getting permits, and you're the owner of the park, and then when HCD comes in and people have made complaints about it, you say, oh yeah, we're getting it online, and HCD closes the case, and they still don't have permits. And the worst part of it is these houses, it's not once or twice. This is the pattern they do in our park and other parks. We're not the only one. And in the process, you have somebody buying a home, and unlike a regular brick and mortar house says, if I take this garage and make it a bedroom without permitting it, when the time comes to sell it, I must sell it as a garage and not a bedroom, or return it back to its state. In a mobile home, there's none of that. Nobody says, oh, this was a 2-bedroom 1971 coach. Why is it a 4-bedroom now? Nobody inspects it. No certificate of occupancy. I brought my coach in brand new in 2002, my triple wide. It had to be inspected by HCD for a certificate of occupancy. I couldn't live in it until it was inspected. As a matter of fact, they told my mom it was going to be 6 to 8 weeks. My mom got so upset, she called them up and said, I can't have my daughter on my sofa anymore. Please, please inspect her house. But it's a wait. These houses that they've brought in or done in the past, within the minute they're done, they're up for sale. There's no way they're being inspected. And HCD, just to give you an idea of the problem, there recently was an audit done by the Inspector General's office on how funds are being allocated in it, and there were some issues. I spoke to the Inspector General of the state of California, trying to explain to them the problem is they don't have enough bodies to cover what needs to be covered. I mean, you have people buying homes, and they don't know that some homeless guy and some other guy that might have has a drug problem is working on a house. And that's how their house is the way it is. They don't know that they got rebuilt. They're trusting because they're buying it from the park. So they have this, there's this inevitable, how can I say it, implemented trust already they feel they should have because of where they're buying it from. HCD does not have the ability to do what it needs to do. And unless there's pressure from the cities, nothing's going to change. I mean, we have situations where houses are pooling with water underneath them and sinking. And literally, like one of them, half of it's concrete and half of it's dirt. Well, that's the way she bought it. It's now the park's responsibility. We have driveways that are falling apart. That's the park's responsibility. HCD, they can't determine, and even in their own department, HCD, you call and make a complaint such as road plates. Now, you guys know if you work on a city and you have a hole in the ground that you're going to leave to go back and access, you have to put a road plate in. It has to be buried, dug out, asphalt packed, okay? Oh, we got them just sitting on top of the ground in our park where people walk. I've tripped on one. My knee is messed up from tripping on one. This is the way they leave it because it's HCD. It's not the city of Simi Valley, but it's within your city limits. And I know it's a gray area of law, and I know it's a touchy situation, but if we don't get some type of pressure coming from the city, nothing's going to change. They take houses from people when they die, or they force families out by just showing them, and I'm running out of time, but they show them the false sense of what the value of the house is, act like they're doing a favor, and they take the coaches. And that's why they're rebuilding these coaches over and over again. So I think you guys, being mediation, I love the fact we have one. Without it, I do have friends that live in the valley who's 85. He moved in 10 years before I bought my place, and my rent is a third of what his is. So the rent mediation board works, meaning if you bring the power down to the local level, it works better. Everything works better at a local level, and that's what we need. They need that here.
You're a little bit over your time.
Okay, so thank you guys. I just thought you guys need to know that it's a really bad situation. with stuff
Thank you very
like
much for your time.
this. Thank you.
David Griggs?
Special thanks to Vicky. She's not feeling well and she came anyway. Okay. I live in the same side of the park, and I wanted to talk about some of the things that have been going on there. 2 years ago, they held my check for my rent because my yard needed cleaning. And I went through our contract, and it clearly stated if there's something wrong with me, they need to put it in writing, not to hold my check for a month, which is what they did. And it was a clear violation of our contract. So I wanted you to know that they do dirty things like that there. Our roads are oblivious. They are now out of ADA compliance because they have renters in there in several coaches where we're not allowed to rent out, but they have the Mark Williams is purchasing the units from the people who leave and then putting renters in their place. So now we don't have a trailer park, we have a rental unit, like a condo place instead of, and then we're finding signs around our neighborhoods. We buy mobile homes. We're getting letters from Mark Williams himself requesting to buy our mobile homes. The rent has doubled since I've been there in only 8 years. It went from $825 to almost $1,750. It should be on your things there. I moved there in 2005. Now, a friend of ours moved in 4 years before us. It was $775. It upgraded $50 in 4 years, and now in 8 years, it has doubled. And I find it wrong. There is trees falling all over the place. People are fighting with the management. The management takes privileges and makes parking spots for themselves, taking our parking away from our visitors. There is hardly any visitor parking there anymore. And it's just oblivious. The place is just a place of corruption and dissent, and it's just horrid. So I make sure I pay my rent on the last day that I have to, in protest of the way they're treating people inside the park. And I've heard other places where they are lowering the rent for new contracts for family members. So instead of paying $1,750, be $1,600 or $1,450. So we really do need to look into the corruption of this park. Mark Williams, Jimmy, and Cliff. I don't know their last names, and that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Since we're still on public statements, is there any other parties in the chamber that wishes to speak about items on the consent calendar, which would be 9A we just talked about, and then 9B, general plan progress report for calendar year 2023 for submission to the city council? Yes, please, step forward. Did you do a speaker card by chance? If you could at some point when you're all done, that would be great, thank you. But feel free.
Thank you. Good evening. Before I begin, I wanted to let you all know that I watched the meeting of last month online, and I'm here tonight to address my comments regarding the mobile home rent mediation annual report. I have lived in my home in Friendly Village Mobile Home Park since July of 2018. When I purchased my home, one thing I did not know about was that at the time of the purchase of the home that my property sits on, I would be paying rent for it. Then, in addition, the park owners account my bill for my electricity, gas, water, and trash services, which are then added to the rent payment. Looking at the chart of the report, the same that y'all are going to approve most likely this evening, the first year listed is the same year for Friendly Village that I purchased my home in 2018. I luckily got the high end of the rent, which was $945. When I learned that the previous owner paid around $300 a month, and I asked why wasn't I being charged that, I was told it was none of my business what the previous owner paid. Now, 5 years later, I will be paying $1,005 a month. That, in addition to cable services, utilities, and a mortgage, I will be paying roughly $2,300. And if that is, as it is quoted in the report, still one of the most affordable housing options in the high-cost area for low-income households and for those living on a fixed income, I think there needs to be a better understanding of what it means to be on a fixed income. Lastly, the report states that there is a survey done, but with the park managers, not the owners of the home. And it was last year at this time that I learned that y'all were even part of the commission to address mobile home rental increases year by year. And I came a year ago and just sat in the chambers and was really impressed with Miss Mayor at that time, and still am, since I've watched her at meetings. I recall her saying that she had heard from some of her constituents about the rental issue. Those of us that rent, it's easier said than done with the cost of living right now. But as owners, we're not surveyed. Why aren't we surveyed? I know it would take a lot to send out a report and that type of thing to say, you know, what's being done in your property. I appreciate the two previous speakers and the respect that they're addressing concerns going on in their individual parks, but we're not surveyed as owners. And I've had numerous occasions where I've addressed my concerns there in the park with my home, and I basically get, unfortunately, a little bit of pushback. I was just wondering, as I conclude, what y'all would think of that as an addition to going forward to the next year when the report is submitted, if there's a consideration for those of us as owners to also weigh in on the rent going up. I don't want to sell my home, but $1,000 more a month than what I was paying when I first started at $945 5 years ago. It's a lot, and I am on a fixed income, and I'm going to make it work, obviously. But anyway, that's what I wanted to share with y'all. Thank you for hearing my comments.
Thank you. Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to closing the public portion of the public comments, and we're going back to consent calendar. So either motion to approve, if anybody wants to make a motion to pull something from the consent calendar, now would be the time to pull it, and then that would open it up for discussion.
I'll make a motion to pull 9A, is that correct?
Correct?
Consent calendar,
What do you want to do with 9B?
to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion to pull 9A for further discussion and approve 9B.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second from Commissioner Rice. Second from Commissioner Rice. We have the motion from Vice Chair Mayor. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and take a vote on this one. I just want to see.
Yeah.
We don't need to do the official vote. Just to make sure, or can we do the official vote? I don't know, we don't need to. We're only just doing consent. Does everybody agree for pulling 9A and approving 9B?
You just
Well,
wanna- yeah.
Full 9A approve? Okay. Then by virtue of a vote, thus consent, we're going to pull 9A for further discussion and approve 9B. We good?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we going to discuss 9A now, or?
Yes, you will discuss 9A now.
Okay, let's do 9A. Commissioner Mayor, you made the motion.
Well, I'm new here, so I would like Sean to chime in a little bit more on what we can do in regards to this, and what is our capacity of mitigating some of the issues or all of the issues.
Can I possibly, I don't mean to walk over you, but can I make a suggestion maybe to recommend to the city council that maybe, and this might be the wrong suggestion, but at least, because I know sending out cards or flyers might be something that the city can't, I don't know. But if maybe they could hold a roundtable or something, at least to get input from the owners, or at least, I mean, I don't know how many of them, you know, some sort of internet survey or something like that, at least so that there's some sort of buy-in somehow. So at least we get some sort of feedback. I
Okay.
mean, I don't know how possible that is, but some sort of, so there's some way for them to, you know,
Communicate.
communicate what they,
I mean, unlike housing records where you know who the owners are in mobile homes, you don't know who the owners are unless you get the information. My understanding is from the mobile home park, which is why I'm assuming the information we get from the mobile home park is based on their data, not from the owners themselves.
I'm looking at our mentioned analyst, Daniel Franco, who helped prepare that survey. Daniel, if you want to explain briefly the survey process.
Yeah, hi. So regarding the survey that was conducted, yes, it is true that that survey goes out to management, not to the tenants. So the information in the report is what management is reporting in terms of rents, vacancies, and the information provided in the report. Regarding the Mobile Home Rent Mediation Board, we do have a resolution, which is resolution number 2013-57. That resolution kind of goes into the role of the Mobile Home Rent Mediation Board, which is a voluntary mediation on both parties under certain qualifying events. For example, a rent increase that affects a certain number of residents, or a decrease in service or amenities that affects a certain number of residents. Again, this is a voluntary process on both parties. So should the residents request the mediation, then at that point, both parties would come together. The Mobile Home Rent Mediation Board would make their recommendation, their suggestion. But based on the resolution, it is simply a recommendation or a suggestion.
Okay, so have any of the parks asked for a rent increase for?
They have submitted rent increase notices, yes, and that is displayed in the survey that you have.
And to the best of our knowledge, nobody has filed a protest or anything,
Correct.
or request for
We have not
mediation?
received a request for mediation.
Okay. As far as, and sorry if I'm overstepping my bounds here, as far as the first two parties that spoke about the conditions on the mobile home park, that is not within our purview or jurisdiction, correct?
That's correct. As the comments were made, mobile home parks are largely regulated by HCD, the state.
Okay.
And so in terms of enforcement on the city's part, there's a lot of limitations. So we encourage people to contact HCD. In some cases, it's necessary for the residents to seek their own legal representation regarding the issues that they're facing. But yes, it's correct. It's largely governed by HCD.
So as far as the discussion about the lack of permits and whatnot, that would go to HCD. They don't come to the city for permits, correct?
Not for the units themselves. And we can reach out to the parks and educate them on the process, educate owners on the mobile home rent mediation board process and limitations to
Okay.
further explain that to the owners and tenants in those locations. So there may be some outreach the city could pursue
Okay.
proactively.
That's right.
That's what I wanted to ask, what is the process for them to actually file? Because obviously there are people coming again and again to talk about the same issues.
Right. So the first thing that would have to be established would be a qualifying event, right? So under the resolution, it would have to be identified that one of the two things have happened, either the rent increase that affects the identified number of residents in the resolution, or the decrease in service and amenities stated in the resolution. So that would have to be identified first, and then there's a process for requesting the mediation. A form would need to be completed. The residents that are requesting the mediation would need to provide that to the city in writing, and then the city would coordinate that mediation.
Thank you.
I'm assuming that form's available on our website for,
I don't believe it's on the website, but we can make it available to anybody who requests it.
okay.
I have a quick question. When you're working with the management of the properties, do you get any kind of report from them on how many of their units are owned by them versus how many are leased out or rented out?
That's not a question that's on the survey, so no.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So Chairman Mann, in the meantime, they could reach out to the Environmental Services Department.
Okay.
There's a 583-6769 should they need to get in contact with Daniel or myself.
And that's for issues regarding the rent, because everything else, like we discussed under permits, is not our purview.
It's not our purview, but if they want to follow up with any discussion, they could reach out to us.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the Mobile Home Rent Mediation Board Annual Status Report for calendar year 2023?
I got a quick question. Is there any way for this report to be sent to each of the tenants?
Well, I guess there's a way to send it, but we don't have a tenant list. We could send it by address. We create it. We may have ownership lists, but it is possible, or it's also we could provide a more simplified notice and provide a link to our website where the report may be available.
We have their address. We know how many units are in each park. Such address, space 1, space 2, right?
It's probably that simple.
Yeah. It might be good to have everybody know, at least on an annual report, what's being asked from the owners of these properties.
And maybe how to contact the city if they do have a complaint. Yeah.
We'll take those comments back to the staff, and we could follow up with possibly an updated process for that.
Any other discussion or questions? Then back to, do I have a motion to approve the Mobile Home Rent Mediation Board Annual Status Report for calendar 2023?
Move to approve item 9A.
We have a motion from Commissioner Rice. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Tolson. By consent, we'll approve 9A, and we appreciate the staff's time with examining this further. Okay,
Thank you, Daniel.
that was consent calendar, continued business. I have none. New business? This is the time and place set for public hearing on the consideration of CUP S-2022-0014 and the addendum thereof. Are there any ex parte communications to report? May we have an oral report on this matter by staff?
Yes, Chairman and members of the Planning Commission, this is a proposed 209,000 square foot industrial tilt-up building located at 903 Camisa Drive. Our associate planner, Alex Klingman, is here for the presentation. Alex?
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. The applicant, Aaron Labowitz, with Entertainment Earth, requests approval of a conditional use permit to construct a 209,524 square foot tilt-up building for warehouse and office use on a 13-acre vacant site, and the adoption of an addendum to the previously approved mitigated negative declaration for the site. The project is located at 903 Camisa Drive and is surrounded by a railroad and Oak Park to the north, West Los Angeles Avenue and an RV and contractor storage yard to the south, Camisa Drive and a vacant lot to the west, and Alamos Creek and a vacant lot to the east. In 2013, City Council approved a 6-building business park at this site. The project was split into 2 phases. The first phase involved grading and road improvements along West Los Angeles Avenue and Camisa Drive, and this was completed. In 2018, a modification to the project was approved to increase the proposed finished grade for the site by approximately 14 feet. The entitlement expired in 2021 before building permits were obtained for the overall project. The current proposal was applied for in 2022. As you can see here, most of the site has already been graded to accommodate the previously approved building pad. West Los Angeles Avenue was also widened to create a left turn lane for the project site during Phase 1. The project will not extend development beyond the existing building pad area, and grading will be limited to the previously approved extent to avoid impacts to Alamos Creek, which is located to the east. The previously approved grading limits are shown here in blue, and the proposed grading limits are outlined in green. The proposed building will include approximately 194,000 square feet of warehouse space, 8,000 square feet of office space, and 7,000 square feet of office mezzanine. The site will have 206 parking spaces for both public and employee use, located on the south and east sides of the building, and a second driveway from Camisa will be added to access these parking areas. The existing driveway located at the northwest corner of the site will be used for truck access to the 24 loading docks located at the rear of the building, facing the railroad to the north. The project will provide approximately 69,700 square feet of landscaping, which complies with the West End specific plan requirement of 15%. 7 coast live oaks and 10 California pepper trees will be removed from the site to accommodate the project. To mitigate the loss of these trees, the applicant is required to plant replacement trees on site or pay into the city's tree mitigation fund. Oak trees will need to be mitigated at a ratio of 3:1 to comply with the West End specific plan. As shown in these renderings, a landscape buffer area will screen a majority of the building from West Los Angeles Avenue and Camisa Drive. The image on the left shows the view of the building from Camisa Drive, and the image on the right shows the east portion of the building along West Los Angeles. Retaining walls ranging from 4.4 to 15 feet in height will be constructed along the south and east parking areas. Landscaping will be provided in front of the walls to soften their appearance, as shown here. The proposed building will range from 33 to 44 feet in height, which complies with the 48-foot maximum height allowed by the West End specific plan. The exterior of the building will consist of concrete tilt-up walls in varying shades of gray. Metal canopies and awnings will be provided over windows and loading docks, and blue tone wall panels will accent the building and match the loading dock roll-up doors at the rear. As shown in the table and detailed on page 8 of the staff report, the proposed structure meets the setbacks, height requirements, and off-street parking requirements of the Development Code and West End specific plan. The Planning Commission adopted a mitigated negative declaration and an initial study for the previous project in 2011. The project, as originally described in the MND, is changing from an approximately 166,000 square foot, 6-building business park to a single 209,000 square foot tilt-up industrial building. Other changes include reducing the number of parking spaces from 500 to 206, increasing the number of loading areas from 6 to 24, and adding an additional driveway from Camisa Drive. The new project is projected to have less traffic trips than the previous project and requires less import and export due to most of the grading work being completed. The project will remain within the development area for the site that was previously approved and analyzed under the previous environmental document. Minor technical changes to the previous M&D are necessary due to the implementation of Assembly Bill 52 for tribal cultural resources and changes to the project scope and grading. Staff prepared an initial study for the proposed project, which shows that there are no new significant impacts resulting from the project and no substantial increases in the severity of any previously identified environmental impacts. And therefore, an addendum to the M&D has been prepared in accordance with CEQA Guidelines Section 15164B. And lastly, the Executive Board for Neighborhood Council Number 3 heard the project in January of this year and recommended approval by a vote of 9-0. A summary of the NC3 meeting was provided as Exhibit 3 to the staff report. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission consider adopting a resolution to approve the proposed conditional use permit and an addendum to the previously approved MND for the site. This concludes staff's presentation, and we are available for any questions.
Do any commissioners have any questions of staff?
I do. How did we, on the previous project, go from 500 parking spots to the number that we have now? When we went from 166,000 square feet to 209,000 square feet?
The 500 parking spaces that were proposed on the previous project were in excess of what was required. And similar to this project, they are still providing slightly excess of what's required, but they're meeting that requirement.
Just to add to that, the earlier project was a business park, so the parking is calculated differently. This is mostly warehouse with a certain amount of office. So the parking calculation, I believe, is 1 per 500, while the previous use was a business park, which had a higher intensity use.
So what was provided or what was planned for before may have been way in excess of what was required.
What was required before was also more than what is required now. So as you see from the traffic trips, because the earlier project was a business park, there was more parking required, more use, and higher traffic trips.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
Should we talk about the supplemental here with the wildlife passage?
Sure.
Stuff? Is that part of this?
Yes, it is.
And how does that affect it? You know, I kind of looked over the, you know, the maps of, you know, where the wildlife's going to go, and I just kind of wanted an assessment of how this may impact. Does staff have something on that for us? Thank you.
We did receive that supplemental letter earlier today from the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority. They had three main concerns. Their first concern was that we didn't analyze mountain lions within our staff report or our environmental analysis. But we do have an updated biological report for this site, and as part of that, they have analyzed all federal and state-listed wildlife species with their potential to occur on site. The mountain lion was not one of those, so therefore it was not studied. Another one of their concerns was the impact of the project on the wildlife corridor that's along Alamos Creek to the east. Again, this project is not increasing grading or going into Alamos Creek any more than what was previously analyzed, so therefore there's no additional or new impacts to that wildlife corridor area. And their final concern was related to improvements on West Los Angeles Avenue. Those improvements have already been completed, so there will be, again, no new impacts to those areas.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners have any other questions of staff? Okay. Hearing none, I'll open the public testimony portion of the hearing. Would the applicant like to present the project? Please, step forward to the microphone. Time is yours, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is John Matthews. I'm with S.L. Leonard and Associates. I'm the construction manager and put together the consultant team for this project. We have for us consultants that will do the actual presentation. We have David Young, who will give you a short video of Entertainment Earth and their business model. We have Scott Boydson, who's the architect, and he's going to... Scott Boydson, who's the architect, who will give a presentation of our renderings and our proposed architecture. We also have Paul Jordan, who's a landscape architect, and he has a short presentation of proposed landscaping. We also have Jacob Lewinsky, who is a civil engineer who's here for questions. And I'm also available for any construction questions that you might have. So here's David.
Good evening, council members. My name is David Young. I'm with NAI Capital. I act as a consultant for industrial building projects. Just to be clear, I just want to note that the earlier building applications were done under a different ownership. Aaron Labowitz acquired the property about 1.5 years ago. So if you would start this, please. I just want to make a short presentation about Entertainment Earth, the company which will be occupying these buildings. This is their 25th anniversary. It's actually 28 years ago that they were founded in 1996.
Hello, Aaron, Jason, and the entire Entertainment Earth team. Happy 25th anniversary. Thank you so much for placing that first order with Hasbro 25 years ago, and for increasing those orders throughout the years. You are such an important partner of ours, and it's been great supporting your unique company that all started with Hasbro products. And to the many collectors and fans out there, thank you for buying Hasbro toys and games from Entertainment Earth. We all appreciate your business very much.
Everybody, this is Todd McFarlane, and I just want to reach out to Entertainment Earth and wish all of you a happy 25th anniversary. Quite an accomplishment, right? In geekdom and fandom, anybody that can stand around and go 2.5 decades and still be standing strong, I tip my hat off to you. And I know that it couldn't have been possible without your great staff, all your thousands and thousands of customers over the years. So I'm hoping that we get another 25 years out of you, and that we're just geeking out to the last breath that we all have. Good luck.
People around here, you can't believe this. Look, look. Well, look at the line. Look at the line.
Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith, and Mark Bernardin, and we're here at Fat Man Beyond, wishing the good folks at Entertainment Earth a happy 25th birthday. Can you believe they've been doing 25 years?
25 years of giving people the toys they've always wanted in the mail, and everything you could possibly need you could get from Entertainment Earth. And I'm so glad that it's been 25 years. What is that, silver anniversary, gold,
I don't know what
diamond?
it is. Quarter of a century.
That's
what
go.
sounds metal as hell, man. The only two E's that put together that you need in this life, man. Entertainment Earth, happy 25th birthday.
Hey, it's Tommy Thayer from KISS. I wanted to wish Jason and everybody at Entertainment Earth a very happy anniversary.
Lin-Manuel Miranda is tweeting about his partnership with Entertainment Earth.
I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey, yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot. I'ma get a scholarship to King's College. I probably shouldn't brag, but Dad,
Hi, Jason, everyone at Entertainment Earth, happy anniversary. We've loved working with you on the Pinmates, and we love all the toys you make. Happy anniversary.
So let me spell out the name. I am the A-L-E-X-A-N-D-E-R. We are meant to be a colony that runs independently. We want Britain keep shitting on us endlessly.
So the company has been headquartered in Simi Valley for 13 years, beginning in March 2011. The company occupies 2 buildings totaling approximately 150,000 square feet. The company owns and occupies an 82,000 square foot distribution warehouse building with offices at 61 Moreland Road, and they've been in that building since 2011, as well as a building they lease of about 68,000 square feet at 1860 Tapo Canyon Road at the Tapo Canyon Commerce Center, and they've been in that since December of 2022. The company's out of space, needs to grow, and would like to continue to grow within Simi Valley, making a larger investment into Simi Valley and creating more jobs. The plan is to continue hiring employees from within Simi Valley. Currently, the company has about 300 employees, half of which are remote, and they're looking to increase the employee growth here in Simi. Lastly, the project converts the site at 903 Quamisa Drive from a construction equipment storage yard to a Class A state-of-the-art new building that, again, will create jobs, raise tax revenue, and beautify the area. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. I'm Scott Boydston, the architect with Rasmussen and Associates out of Ventura. Just a few, is my presentation coming up? I'm the guy with the pretty pictures, hopefully. Let's do the PowerPoint first. Yes, that's it. So really, when Aaron and Jason came to me, it was much more than just a warehouse they wanted. They wanted a building that they could be proud of and call their corporate headquarters. So you see a lot of things that are not typical of a tilt-up warehouse. You see a lot more glass. You see 2-story glass lobbies. There's awnings. There's different kinds of striations which modulate the building. The building really has 2 sides, a very public side towards Los Angeles Avenue. How do I hit, do I just do next? Which includes the lobbies and the parking spaces. And next. You can see that the additions on the outside really take it out of being a tilt-up box and creates a transparency. These being the main entrance 2-story lobby, along with an awning at an angle and an entry feature wall. Next. This is one of the 3 patios for employees around the building. 2nd-story glass is 12 feet high, as opposed to what you'd normally see, and goes from floor to ceiling. Next. Around the back, or on the north side, is the loading zone along the railroad tracks. The building was placed to buffer this loading zone away from public view, away from noise, away from the public sort of building address. Next. This is another one of the patios. All the 4 corners have these entry kind of feature towers that, again, start to break up the building. The warehouse itself is naturally lit where you don't see typical of tilt-up buildings. We're bringing in clear story lights into the warehouse area, along with skylights. So what will happen is during the day, virtually the lights will not have to be turned on. Also on the roof, we will have solar that will be a major component of taking this building off the grid as much as possible. Next. And again, the building has a real subtle, low-key sort of image with the 2-to-1 slope and having it re-landscaped as part of this project It was landscaped as part of the other project, but it was not maintained, so we're gonna re-landscape that whole slope and bring it up to speed. Next. And these are some of the slides as you're going down Los Angeles Avenue. Again, a pretty low-key building for being such a big building. We situated landscape so you'd see glimpses of it rather than the totality of it. Next. And again, this is just a plan you've already seen. Next. Landscape is here if you'd like to ask questions, but the landscape is low water, low maintenance, and meets the requirements of a high fire zone with the Ventura County Fire. Next. Then I think I have a kind of a neat movie that might show you how it might look as you move around the building. Very quick. So here is as you're going up Los Angeles Avenue. Again, you see glimpses of the building. This is, the lower wall is existing. The upper wall is going to be planted and virtually go away when the planting gets up. We're coming up to Camisa, and then we'll move up onto Camisa, and this is the building image or front entry as you come up. You can see the corner of the building and the trellis work that starts to set the stage for you exploring and seeing the building. Again, glimpses and the angles so that it lessens how big of a building it actually is. This is the main lobby. 2-story glass with louvers internal. This is the office portions. We have a secondary lobby, which gives us a little flexibility if we want to do another place for employees to enter the building. You can tell this is 4-sided architecture. We treat each side the same. And again, a whole lot of glass into the warehouse area. The striping and the windows breaks up the long linear nature of the facade. And then all the roof equipment is screened by the parapets. Most of the mechanical equipment is on the front area over the mezzanine, which has the higher parapet walls up to 6.5 feet. So that's my presentation. We're very proud of this building, and we very much appreciate staff's help in getting here today. They have been instrumental and very responsive, so we appreciate that. And with that, again, I'm here for questions, or the team.
Would you like to see a short landscape presentation?
I will. I will keep it very short. Thank you very much, Commissioner. In addition to, the hillside, the West Hillside specific plan, the city's landscape guidelines, one of the driving factors and criteria was the fuel mod. This project's in a high fire hazard area, so fuel mod was very important, and they have real specific guidelines, and depending on, they have zones going from the building out to 100 feet, so depending on where you are, how close you are to the building, there are restrictions on the number of plants, the height of the plants, the spacing, and so forth. The pictures that Scott just showed you were pretty representative of what we're doing. They did capture a lot of the materials that we're using. Next slide. Next slide, Eric. So what we've done is develop sort of this matrix around the front of the building that separates planting based on the square footage that's allowed for that zone. So we made a pattern using decorative rock, and that gives us the square foot requirements because we're limited to the types of plants and the square foot that they can mass in those zones. And so we turned that into a design element. There's a condition to plant, I think, 5 oak trees. There's a plateau as you come through the driveway. You'll see the green there. There's the requirements for 48-inch box, but because of the mitigation values that we have, we're able to plant 60-inch box and 72-inch box trees. The next slide. So what you see here is this is a 72-inch oak tree. It's about 22 feet high and about 14 feet. So we're going to have the ability to plant very large trees throughout the site. And that's a benefit for the landscape for this project. Next slide. On Los Angeles Avenue, there's the existing curb and about 10 feet to where the 6-foot-high retaining wall is. So the space between there and the parking is a slope, and so the hillside planting ordinance kicks in. So we're required to have so many trees per square foot. Fortunately, after 10 years, there are about a dozen existing oak trees that have survived. So we're going to work around those trees. We'll locate them, and we'll plant additional oak trees around those existing ones. So we do have something that has survived through the neglect. It's been the native oak trees that were planted. The next slide. There's 2 protected oak trees that we're working with. One on LA Avenue, you can see a picture of it. It's a large oak with foliage all the way down to the ground. So it does a pretty good job of screening the wall heights behind it. We're not doing anything under the oak trees. The only thing that may occur is dead wood of any dead branches, and maybe removing soil that might accumulate around the trunk of the tree. Other than that, we're going to leave it as is. There's another oak, next slide, Alex. There's another existing oak grove on the east side. Again, there's a retaining wall to protect those trees. There's a picture of one of the trees. There's, I think, 4 of them in there. They're all multi-trunk oaks, beautiful specimens. The branches go all the way down to the ground. Next slide. So you can see from a chart, we have quite a few specimen trees of good size throughout the project. Next slide. So that's it in a nutshell. Any questions? Be happy to answer it.
Answer.
Did you have a question? Yeah, I did. Okay. Yeah, just to confirm, this is single-use occupancy. They're moving into this building. Will they still be occupying the other buildings that they own, or are there plans for those?
Eventually, most likely, Entertainment Earth will move out of the leased building on Capitol Canyon Road. They most likely will remain in the building on Moreland.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, my question, sir, would be your projected hours of operation. Would this be a 24-hour operation, or is this something where?
No, sir, it's not a 24-hour operation. They run, I believe, from 7 to 5 or 6, but just pretty much normal business hours, 5 days a week.
And just so you know, the reason why I'm asking is because on the east side, where they have that wildlife corridor, that's why I'm asking the question, is because if there was, that would mean that there's that time where the wildlife normally would travel that when it's not busy. So that's why I'm asking.
Absolutely not a 24-hour operation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, please.
Sir, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. What is your projected addition to new jobs? Like how many more jobs are?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And do you maybe know how many of those remote employees are local?
I don't know that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions from any of the commissioners? Is there anyone in the chamber wishing to be heard on this matter? Okay. Are there any comments from staff regarding statements made during the public hearing?
No comments.
If there's no further questions, I'm going to close the public testimony portion of the hearing. Are there any comments or questions from members of the Planning Commission?
I'll make a comment.
You're up.
I think it's a beautiful design. I really do. It's a lot of parking spaces, and at first I thought that was probably too much. But if it's something that draws people to buy a lot of toys, then hey, that's great. Brings in visitors, so let's go for it. But I like the design. I think the design is good. The architect did a great job, and not just the building architect, but the landscape architect. Obviously, a lot of thought went into this whole process. So it's a great project, I think.
Yes, please.
So I think this is a very good project. I like the landscaping. It's beautiful. I like the keeping the oak trees. The fact that we're saving jobs here in Simi Valley as opposed to relocating to Moore Park, Newberry Park, or the Valley, whatever it is. I think it's fantastic. And I think the area is perfect for this kind of project. And I like the architecture on the building itself. Second story glass is good. And so glad you're staying.
Okay, Vice Chair Mayor.
Yeah, I second or third everything you guys said. I just wanted to say, in addition to that, I think the area that was previously approved for considering the wildlife, I think this area is a little bit smaller, right? So I mean, if it's mitigated before, then I feel comfortable with that.
Thank you for staying in Simi Valley with the project.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Hearing none, may I please have a reading of the resolution?
Resolution number SVPC 02-2024. A resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Simi Valley approving conditional use permit CUP-S-2022-0014 to construct a 209,524 square foot tilt-up building for warehouse and office use on a 13.13 acre vacant site located at 903 Camisa Drive, and an addendum to the previously approved mitigated negative declaration MND for the site.
The chair will now entertain a motion.
I move to adopt a resolution approving CUP-S 2022-0014, the addendum and mitigation monitoring plan.
I have a motion from Commissioner Rice. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second from Vice Chair Mayor. Call for the vote.
Vote passes unanimously.
The appeal period for the conditional use permit is 14 calendar days. Correct? Okay. Congratulations. Thank you very, very much. Great presentation, gentlemen.
Great job, Ms. Klingman.
Thank you, staff. Great job. No other public hearings, no other oral communications and reports. Does the staff have anything to report?
Chairman Mann, no communications tonight.
Do any commissioners have anything to report? Mobile Home Rent Mediation Board.
No additional items
I
tonight.
think we covered that one. Tree Advisory Board. It's amazing what we do here.
We have no additional items tonight. However, we are preparing to submit our Tree City USA to City Council early May.
Okay. This concludes the meeting of February 21st, 2024. The next scheduled meeting will be March 6th, 2024. This meeting is adjourned.